I went full YouTube on the thumbnail for this one. How'd you like it? Too much? Hi Internet, my name's Scott Peters, a director and cinematographer based in London, England. And this video is about a treatment for a pitch that I didn't win. There's a folder in my Dropbox containing most of the treatments and pitches I've worked on over the last few years. All the ones colour-coded green are jobs I won, and all the ones colour-coded red are jobs I've lost. Notice how there's a lot more red than green in this folder. Last December, I was contacted by an old friend of mine, producer extraordinaire Rob Wildsmith of Dad Bod Films. He wanted to know if I'd be up for pitching to direct a new content series for Bacardi, a project with a budget of £200,000. That's nearly $275,000. I was like, hell yeah, Rob. Meanwhile, Rob was all, but it's so many deliverables, I'm not sure that's worth it. Ever the optimist, I gave the brief the once over and confirmed my eagerness to go for it. I don't, in all honesty, know. Someone had recommended one of the directors on Dad Bod's roster. They'd either not been up for it or lacked in the entertainment/content experience, and Dad Bod thought that I might be suitable for the role. Bacardi sent us a breakdown of the formats they wanted, as well as a list of what they needed for the pitch. Creative approach and any visual references for each format. A suggested director. A shooting plan to optimise content production and ability to shoot in a couple of other cities. Ballpark budgets, keeping in mind we need social media teasers for each. Cut downs. See deliverables. The deliverables list was long, but not unachievable in my opinion. Rob set to work on the budget and scheduling, whilst I started writing the creative. First, putting fingers to keyboard inside of a shared Google Doc so Rob could give his feedback and input. You can see his additions here in red. I then put it all together with a ton of reference imagery inside a more sexy looking deck to present. I started by including some overall spiel about the creative approach, words I think from memory encouraged by Rob to include in order to say a lot of what we'd spoken about on the phone following the brief. Then followed by an outline of how we'd approach the shows. Even though these are mostly my personal thoughts as a director, I've used a lot of we language in the writing in an effort to sound like a grander organisation than just Rob and myself would have been as a producer-director duo. Bacardi hadn't come to Dad Bod looking for me specifically as a director, so I shouldn't think they could care too much about who the treatment was coming from. I thought some might find it interesting to hear a few of the words I actually wrote for some of the shows. If you're interested in my treatment writing process, then this next bit's for you. But if you're not, then you should probably skip 2 or 3 minutes later in the video. I can't seem to find the original emails, but to give you a little bit of context, the starting point were the top line ideas for the formats. So for this first one, they wanted to make a near feature-length documentary that looked into the lives of various different bartenders around the world. They were looking for some interesting stories to tell. Behind the Bar, a cinematic ode to the bar industry. This film, or series of films, will champion the amazing bars and bartenders of the world that make up the Freeport community. Anchored around the working life of 3 bartenders with unique and captivating personalities and stories behind their journey and day-to-day life behind the bar. Sit-down interviews coupled with off-the-cuff chat as we document a week with each bartender, delving deep into the craft, the highs, the lows, the sentimental and the side-splitting reflections of our individuals. We want to get under the skin of what it really means to be a bartender. What took them to this point? Were there challenges to overcome along the way, or was there a pivotal moment that set them on this path? Spending a good amount of time with each bartender in their home city will be key. We want to get to know them, understand their journey, and create a rich, colourful backdrop for our film. We'll visit the neighbourhood they grew up in, perhaps visit their friends and relatives, COVID permitting, get anecdotes and insights from the people around them who may have also shaped their story. Ultimately, this is a story centred around bartending. We won't get too sidetracked by tangents of times gone by. Everything we capture will serve a purpose. All narratives will lead to how and why our protagonist became a bartender. And from there, we'll explore the kind of bartender he or she is. Signature drinks, the layout of their bar, the quirky and interesting regulars, customers they like and don't like. Opportunities to incorporate archive imagery from a bygone era will aid in telling stories that, while in their own way unique, will no doubt resonate with so many bartenders alike. Cinematographically beautiful, this will aim high in the realms of production, sitting atop the pile of prestigious behind-the-curtain shows like Chef's Table and alongside the strengths of dramatisation from the likes of Midnight Diner. Stylised macro footage of stunning mixology, orchestrated vignettes into the lives of our subjects, coupled with candid documentary footage, archive and awe-inspiring geographical GVs. Sound design focused around that of mixology would play a subliminal but strong part in stitching the piece together. We love the idea of bright, colourful, high-speed macro footage moving in and out of bottles, shakers and ice, used both strategically as our narrative journeys progress and metaphorically where appropriate. Whilst flowing seamlessly as a full feature-length doc, this will work nicely in various iterations of cut-downs from individual segments or into topically themed spin-off content from the feature. Our recommendation would be to split the film into 3 parts. Given schedule and COVID limitations, it might be wise to shoot, edit and release shows in an order that will work under current limitations, as opposed to trying to capture everything in one go at a time where most countries are pretty closed up to travelling for film. I then included a few references. something that hit the right notes at what I wanted it to look like, on how I wanted it to feel, and a good example of the level of technicality and insight that we'd be looking to achieve. That was the first out of 4 different formats in these deliverables. If that bored the pants off you, then it's not too late to skip, but if it didn't, I'll tell you my thoughts and references for another one of the formats. And for the format of this next one, it was meant to be 2 different bartenders facing off against each other and exchanging ideas. Cocktail exchange. 2 bartenders battle it out to make the same iconic drink, bringing their own unique spin to a classic. This will feature a characterful narrator to set the scene and both educate and entertain. The tone will be light-hearted, but with the level of intricacy and in-depth knowledge our core audience would expect. Solo interviews before and after the tasting from each bartender will help thread the narrative. To really set out the making of the bartender's creation, we'll use a variety of stylistic techniques in camera and post, such as slow motion, sound design, split screen and on-screen text to really elevate this. The taste test sees the bartenders in a group interacting around their creations and will give us an opportunity to eke out any tension, controversy, and/or humour between the individuals in a friendly, competitive way. The current COVID situation dictates how we can approach this one. We had a couple of thoughts, but knowing that we can find international bartenders right here in the capital, following seems like the best approach given our current timeline. As well as shooting on location with our 2 mixologists, we'll incorporate a bite-sized piece about each bartender, their bar, their history. Think the narrative of an X Factor contestant backstory, but with the style and production value of our Behind the Bar feature doc. Shot in a controlled environment, could be a bar or a pop-up mix station situated in a vast drinks works. Lit and to look something like the spawn of a high-end drinks commercial and reality television show, this episode of Carlsberg Build the Danish Way is a fantastic example of the level and production value, coupled with technicality, reality, and great use of voiceover. So there's another example there, along with references citing the type of look and tone I'd be hoping to achieve, as well as examples of the type of interaction and location we might be looking at. I made sure to include plenty of visual references, citing what elements of them were relevant to the show we wanted to make. After that, a bit of self-promotion from the Dad Bod team and my relevant experience as a director and some production considerations to note from Rob, remembering we were pitching in the height of the second wave of the pandemic here in England. And lastly, the all too hollow thank you for letting me spend 12 hours of my already super busy week working for free on a pitch that you will ultimately say thanks but no thanks to. I'm not bitter at all. But seriously, I'm not. Rejected treatments and lost pitches are just all part of the game that I've become far too familiar with. Following the submission of the treatment, we then had a semi-surprise hour Zoom call a few evenings before Christmas to talk through everything. Surprise! Having just come off another call, I was ill-prepared to talk it up, having thought they were going to be asking us questions and giving us feedback based on the treatments and budgets we'd already sent over. Regardless, we both got off the call feeling pretty positive. Then, the morning after. Classic. I hope you find that insightful and maybe even a little bit helpful if you're looking to write yourself any pitch losing treatments soon. Joking, not joking. Make it all better for me and click that like button below. It would really make my day. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more semi-helpful tips and interesting insider industry knowledge.